everyone, my name is Yakshini Priya and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be testing out 5 different marker papers and I want to just see how they work. And the markers I'm going to be using for these are the ProBrush or Pro Marker Brush by Winsor & Newton. This is a set of 48, so these are the markers that I'm going to be using. Now, if you've recently seen my video on an art haul video that I did recently, you'd see that I have actually purchased a few different types of marker paper. So I'm just going to go through those with you and show you which ones those are, and then we're going to go through and I'm going to do an illustration for each of the papers. I'm going to do an illustration with the markers and see how they if they have any bleed through, or if the blending is I'm able to blend well. All of those kind of things I'm going to check with the demonstrations or the illustrations that I'm going to be doing. So the first paper that I'm going to be trying out is this is the Prime Art Bleed Proof Marker Layout Pad. I'm going to try this one out. And then the second one is the Pro Art Bleed Proof Marker Paper. The third one that I'm going to be trying out is one that I've actually found that I purchased a while ago, but I never gave it a try, is the Canson XL marker paper. So this was not part of the haul video that I did recently, but this is one that I found in my paper and in my lots of paper pads, and then I said let me give it a try. And then the other one I'm going to try out is the Typo bleed proof marker paper as well. And at the end, my final or fifth drawing that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using the Touch marker paper. This is a bleed proof marker paper, which is what I've been using for all my marker illustrations and drawings. So I will just do a final piece with this to see in comparison with the other papers if they are the same or if they work just as well as this works, because this one works really well so far from what I've tried out on it. So these are the papers I'm going to try out. Now what I have done is I've actually removed a sheet from each pad, and I've just halved each one. So I've made it half, and that's just because I want to work on a smaller piece. Because I'm working on 5 different drawings, it's going to be a very long video if I work on full longer pieces. So I'm going to just try them out with these smaller sheets and see how they work, because then I'll be able to get 5 pieces of art in a shorter amount of time, and then this video won't be extremely long. So as you can see, just move that to the side for a moment, but you can see this is the type of the papers, what they are like. This is the Prime Art bleed proof marker paper. You can see it's very thin. It's a very thin paper, but it's very smooth. So I'm thinking that I'm going to have a very good time blending on it. Actually the back of it feels much smoother than the front, but yeah, I think I'm going to give this one a try first. And then this one as well. This is the Pro Art bleed proof paper. We're going to use this one for the next, the second drawing. And this is also a very thin paper. These two are quite similar in the way that they feel. Smooth and very thin. And then we've got this one, which is the Canson XL mark paper. It's also very smooth and it's very thin as well. And then we have the Typo bleed proof paper. Now this one is a bit more thicker than the others. This one has a bit more weight to it. But once again, it is really smooth. So I'm sure this is going to also be able to work, but we will see as I'm working through them. And then the one that I usually use, which I think is actually the thinnest from all of them. This is very smooth, and this is the Touch marker paper that I've been using. I've just got the names written on the corner so I know which ones they are. So yeah, so that's what I've got prepared. Now let's start with the first drawing. So let us get our markers ready and let them be to the side. And then I'm also going to have a lot of different Fineliners. I've got my Multiliners. I don't have all of my Fineliners here, but I've just selected a few of them. These are my Multiliners, Copic Multiliners. I've got a few of them because these are really fine points. I've also brought in my graphic Fineliners. This also has got a brush nib for one. So I'm going to just see, maybe I will use these, I'm not sure. And then I've just added the Derwent line makers as well. This is the black one. So we're going to try and see which one works. And then I'm just adding my little white jelly roll 0.5. This is just for any white that I want to add on to it when I'm done. So I'm actually going to put a piece of paper down so that if it does bleed through, it does not bleed through on my desk. And we're going to start with the demonstration. So I've just got my piece of cardboard down when I'm going to be working on, and I'm going to keep this just to protect my table surface. Here are the final drawings using all 5 different papers, including my usual paper that I use for my markers. But now I'm going to go through each one and tell you my views on creating. So now I'm going to go through all the papers one by one and each illustration and tell you my experience that I had using these papers and what I feel about these papers. So the first one was this maple leaf that I did, and this was using the Prime Art bleed proof paper, a marker paper. Now you can see it's a very thin paper, and this is the paper that it is, the Prime Art bleed proof paper. And as you can see from this drawing, I didn't have any issues with blending. I could add multiple layers. There's a slight warping of the paper, but that is because I put a lot of layers on there. If you see, the outlines did go over some of the color. That was just me being not too careful when I was applying the marker and going out of the lines. So definitely that's not a problem with the paper. That was just my application. But otherwise, you can see I got a lot of detail. I was able to go over my fine liners. I had no issues with that. And it's a very smooth paper. I'm able to blend very well. So I'm very impressed with this paper. And I would definitely say this is a paper that I would recommend if anyone wants a marker paper. And if this one is available wherever you are, then I would say give it a try, because I enjoyed working with it. So this was the one. And you can see it did go through onto the other side, but did not bleed through. All my drawings that I did, none of them bled through onto the board I was working on. So, but it's always good to use something like this underneath your drawings, just in case, so that you don't damage your surface of your table that you're working on. Definitely one I would say that you can give a try. So this one I enjoyed working with. The second one that I did this drawing of a sea turtle. And with this one, I used the Pro Art bleed proof marker paper. That's this one over here. And with this one, I must say, I also am impressed with it. I did multiple layers on it, and like with the Prime Art marker paper, I was able to constantly work and didn't have to wait for anything or for the markers to dry. I could just go over it. I had my initial line work with my fine liners, and then I just started working over with my markers. And you can see I added multiple layers of markers, and I was able to blend them well. There is a bit more warping on this one than with the previous one, but that is because I did use far more marker layers on this one than with the previous one, so with the previous drawing. So that is something to bear in mind when you are doing these illustrations. But all in all, smooth paper, very thin. Also, it shows on the other side, but it did not go through onto my board that I was working on. So definitely I would say this is another paper that I would recommend you trying. So far, 2 of these that I've tried work perfectly. I have no complaints. I enjoyed working with them. Even though they're so thin, I'm able to blend, I'm able to get multiple layers, work with my fine liners. So for me, that's a plus. The next one that I did was this illustration of a rose. Now this one was done using the Canson XL marker paper. So that is this one over here. And with this one, the paper is also quite thin and it is very smooth. So like the others, it goes on the other side. You can see it on the other side, but it does not bleed through onto the board that I was working on. So this one as well, I added multiple layers, not as many as the previous illustrations, but I did add multiple layers of markers, and I did use a fine liner as well. And as you can see, it really was able to withstand it. There's very little warping of the paper, and all in all, easy to blend, easy to layer, work with the fine liners, very smooth paper. Definitely will say this is also a good paper to use if you have this one, or if you can get this paper. This is definitely a paper that's good for markers. I enjoyed working with it as well. It was very easy for me to work with markers. All in all, this process of my drawings today were very enjoyable, and the paper was very, very easy to work with. So definitely this is another one I would say was a good paper to use. Okay, so the next one that I have that I've done is this illustration of a butterfly fish. Now this illustration was done using the Typo bleed proof paper. Now with this one here, I used the Fineliners to do the initial sketch of my multi-liners, or your Copic Multiliners, and then I worked over with marker, and then I also used my Mont graphic Fineliner in between, like I did with some of the others. However, what I found is that because this paper is meant to blend markers, you're able to work on it and blend different colors on the paper, and you don't have to worry about it not blending properly or drying too soon, because this paper does take a while to dry. So it gives you enough time to blend your markers without them drying out before you're able to blend. And actually with this piece, I never really needed the blending marker for this, because I was able to blend the colors on it. But with the way I work, I constantly work and I don't stop to wait for it to dry. I did notice that I picked up some of the multi-liner because it was still wet, or the fine liner. When I used the graphic fine liner from Mont, I did pick up some of the ink because I did that with the fine liner, and then I carried it over. And if you do see at a certain angle, I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but at a certain angle you see the shine of all the areas where I picked up that fine liner. So the areas where I used the fine liner, as well as wherever I was blending, even some of the areas where I used the multi-liner. So that's something just to bear in mind when using this paper. It's a very nice paper. It is a little thicker than the other paper that I did use for the previous illustrations. It is the Typo bleed-proof paper, but it's very good to use if you're blending colors on or mixing colors onto your illustrations. But just bear in mind, you need to let it dry before you apply, otherwise you're going to apply another marker, because you're going to pick up some of that fine liners with the marker if it's not dry. Also, if some of the areas have a lot of marker, you're going to pick up some of that color with another marker when you go over. So just bear that in mind. Like I said, I didn't really research this too much. It's just something I noticed when I was done with the illustration, that it's got that shine wherever the multi-liners are. Some places don't, some places do, and then some places don't have multi-liners, but I'm assuming that I picked it up with the marker and then I blended it and spread of that shine with the fine liner. So I'm not really sure if that is the reason, but that's just what I gathered that could be the reason with this one. But like I said, this is a very good paper to blend on it, and because of my techniques where I constantly work and I don't stop to wait for it to dry or for layers to dry, it was a bit of a issue for me having up certain colors and my markers picking up color and blending and smudging some of the line work. So yeah, that was just one little issue I had with that. But yeah, this is not a bad paper. It's a very good paper, but as I said, maybe it's my technique that's not suitable for this, because I don't blend on the paper like mixed colors. I layer on and I do blend, but don't wait for it to dry. I just move on to the next part and I constantly be working with it. So, or I'm constantly working on drawing. So it could be that it's just maybe my technique, and I just gotta get used to using this paper. But like I said, that's my opinion and that's what I've experienced. If you have any advice on how I can use this paper, if you've tried it out, let me know in the comments below. I would like to know how you use it and how you can avoid this if you've encountered this kind of issue, and if it is actually the not letting it dry in between, because some places you can see it's not matte, some places it's glossy. Not really sure what that reason could be, but if you know anything, please let me know in the comments below. I would be very interested to know why that happened. But all in all, this paper is nice. It's much more firmer paper, which is different from the others. And also I was able to apply the marker. The only problem was I'm having to wait, and that's not really what I normally do in my technique of working. So yeah, that's for this one. The last one I used, and I was not doing something really like a real serious piece or something really as complicated as some of the others I did. That's just because I wanted to do a simple illustration, because I have got videos where I've used this paper before. I've done a couple of different videos with it, so you can head over to my channel to see my other videos that I've done with markers, because I've been using this paper for all of them. And this was a illustration I did of an eye, and it was a very quick illustration. I didn't spend a lot of time on it, and this was the touch paper that I used for this illustration. And as you can see, I was able to once again blend a lot of the layers in. I was able to use my Fineliners, my multiliner. I was able to get shadows in, multiple layers, blend the colors, blend the skin tones as well. It's a very sketchy sort of a feel. I didn't do something very hyper realistic. You can see, like the others, you can see it on the other side. However, it did not come off onto the board I was working on. And because there are multiple layers, you do see there is a little bit of a warp on the paper. But however, the paper is very smooth and there was no damage to the paper. And also it's a thin paper like the others. So all in all, I enjoy using this paper as well. So from all of these, basically all are good in their own way. All of them work perfectly well. My favorites are obviously the Canson is good, the Prime Art and the Pro Art and the Touch are my favorites. I had a bit of issues with the Typo one, but that, as I said, is because I was not waiting for layers to dry. So that could be a potential reason. I'm not too sure. But all in all, this is definitely a paper I don't regret purchasing, because I've used it for my illustrations before and I'm very happy with how it actually works. So this is definitely, I enjoyed working with this paper, and like you'll see in the other videos, I've used this paper a lot in all my other videos. So there are all the drawings that I completed for this test, for all the different marker papers. All these papers are really, really easy to use, and I really enjoyed the whole process. It made me want to do more art with markers, because I haven't been using markers lately. So definitely I enjoyed working on all these pieces. So yeah, in all I was able to create just different subject matters and different levels of detail and layers. So definitely I enjoyed working with these papers. So I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you have used any of these papers and have any feedback, don't forget, you can comment below and let us know. I'm sure a lot of people would like to know what your opinions are. I would like to know as well, as to know how you've worked on these papers and what was your results working with any of these, if you have worked with them. So they work all in a similar way. They don't bleed out onto your surface, although I would always recommend using a board or like just a old, this is an old watercolor sketch pad or watercolor pad of paper. I just use the backing board of it to put down onto my paper, onto my table before I start working with markers, just to avoid any ink or any, sorry, not ink, but any markers seeping through the paper. But like I said, none of these did bleed through. They are definitely all bleed proof, as they say they are. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to like and share. Feel free to comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Till the next one. Bye.